Starting with some tragic news coming in, sole survivor in the CDS chopper crash is no more. The Indian Air Force has given out an official statement. I quote here, the IAF is deeply saddened to inform the passing away of braveheart Group Captain Varun Singh, who succumbed this morning to the injuries sustained in the helicopter accident on 8th of December. The Indian Air Force offers sincere condolences, standing firmly with the bereaved family. I want to now quickly go across to our newsroom because Shiv Arur is giving us all the updates on that. Shiv, the whole country was praying for Group Captain Varun Singh, but that tragic news has come. You had been trying to update us every single day. Over to you now with this statement that has come from the Air Force.
Truly, truly distressing news and upsetting news. But, we've been in touch with the hospital, the doctors, the people who are with him as well, Pooja. And, there is a sense of, finality in what has happened because his injuries were so severe that, there was always going to be, an outside chance of Group Captain Varun Singh's survival. But you're right, an entire nation had been praying. There was an enormous amount of interest and keenness in his recovery. We'd seen prayers happening at temples. We'd seen prayers happening all across social media. Varun Singh had been, a trending topic for the last 1 week, almost non-stop. The fact that he had survived such a horrible tragedy is something that had captured the imagination of people everywhere, especially India's youngsters. And it truly pains me and breaks my heart to bring all of our viewers, this terrible news. His father is a retired colonel from the army. He comes from a Fauji background. He was a highly qualified fighter pilot himself. He was earlier deployed with India's indigenous LCA Tejas squadron in Sulur. He had even won, Shaurya Chakra earlier this year, Pooja, for his expert handling of a terrifying mid-air situation, with an LCA Tejas aircraft where things completely went out of control, but he managed to land it, without endangering the aircraft and without actually ejecting from it and saving himself. He wanted to do the right thing, and that's what won him a Shaurya Chakra. So India has lost hugely, with the loss of Group Captain Varun Singh. He wasn't just another pilot or an officer. He wasn't just another human being. He was an incredible warfighter. He was an incredible combat pilot and someone with a long and great future in the Indian Air Force. So our deepest condolences are with his family, his unit, the people at the Wellington Staff College where he was posted at the time of this terrible tragedy. India Today's Abhishek Bhalla, our defense editor, is with us. Abhishek, in fact, traveled to Wellington right after the crash, and he's been reporting on all of these developments. Abhishek, truly sad, but like you and I have been reporting over the last few days, there was always, a very small sliver of an outside chance of Group Captain Varun Singh's survival because of the extent of his injuries. In many ways, his suffering has ended. He was on life support for the last 1 week, but so incredibly sad, Abhishek, with all the nation's prayers that were hoping that he would make it.
Definitely there was hope, Shiv, but the chances were slim. We all knew that. Severe burn injuries, more than 50%, and it was always going to be tough. But Group Captain Varun Singh was a fighter and indeed a very inspirational personality, Shiv, if I can say so. Not only did he was he awarded a Shaurya Chakra, as you mentioned, but we also reported on a letter that he wrote to his school principal after getting that Shaurya Chakra, giving a message to mediocre students. He said in that letter that how students who don't score 90% can still make it big, can still be successful. A clear demonstration of the kind of personality, the character that Group Captain Varun Singh was. And finally, after this long fight that he was, trying to, come out of, we get this information that he has not survived. And yes, you're right. The entire country was hoping, was praying but unfortunately he could not make it.
Abhishek, we do know that the Indian Air Force had declared that this was going to be an expeditious tri-service court of inquiry into this terrible crash. This is doubly painful for the Indian Air Force, of course, because this was an Indian Air Force helicopter. 4 Indian Air Force personnel, perished in the crash itself. Group Captain Varun Singh was the 5th man. He has succumbed, and therefore the Indian Air Force itself has lost 5 priceless personnel in this terrible, terrible tragedy. Do we know where the court of inquiry is? Obviously, this is a very sensitive topic, Abhishek. It will take some time, but the Indian Air Force has said that they will arrive at the truth behind what happened in an expeditious manner. What's the update on that front?
Well, Shiv, it's a time-taking process. We cannot expect the findings to come out anytime soon because the probe team, which is headed by an Air Marshal himself, will go into all the details, look into the nitty-gritties. They don't want to leave out anything in the urgency to come out with facts. But there's also another fact, Shiv. Had Group Captain Varun Singh survived, the probe team would have had some first-hand information about what exactly happened.
Very true.
Now that that's not going to be the case, things obviously will get more difficult. But the probe team obviously is an experienced one, and now they will have to look into all the data, things on the ground, perhaps some eyewitnesses. It's a big task, but we can be rest assured that the professional manner in which the Air Force functions and carries out such investigations, and the fact that an Air Marshal himself, a helicopter pilot, is heading this tri-service probe, we can expect a very thorough investigation to come out with facts.
The facts will be out in the days and the weeks ahead. Group Captain Varun Singh's family is also in Bengaluru, as is his father, the very brave Colonel KP Singh, who's been in touch with the media and has simply asked people to pray for his son. Yesterday there were some cruel rumors doing the rounds on social media by certain irresponsible Twitter handles and parties claiming that signs of recovery had been noted in Varun Singh. We at India Today, of course, have been discouraging people from spreading rumors, and here you have this tragedy that has now been confirmed by the Indian Air Force. In a short while from now, we'll be getting you details of the last rites of Group Captain Varun Singh. He hailed from Deoria in Uttar Pradesh. There have been scenes right across the last 1 week, where his parents, where his uncles and aunts, his, people from his village had all been going to the temple and praying for Group Captain Varun Singh. And therefore, this loss is going to be especially painful because it comes 1 week after a crash that had stunned the nation. But by surviving that crash, this young pilot, Group Captain Varun Singh, had truly captured the imagination of all of India. Nobody had even heard of him before this. Those who did were well acquainted with the fact that he was a Shaurya Chakra winner. That in itself is a message. Why do we not know enough about our bravest military personnel? And then he went in this helicopter to receive the Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, and his wife and his entire team, and all of them have now perished in this terrible crash. In a moment from now, we'll get you details of when those last rites will be. The Prime Minister has taken to Twitter to condole the loss of Group Captain Varun Singh. I'm sure even at the Prime Minister's level, there had been hope that Group Captain Varun Singh would somehow pull through and be a symbol of survival. But sadly, this is not a fairy tale. This is the harsh reality of real life, and Group Captain Varun Singh's injuries were simply too grave for him to survive. Because if there was even a small chance that he could have survived, given his own grit, given his own physical and mental strength, as well as the capabilities of the doctors who were treating him, believe me, this wouldn't have been the sad news that we will be bringing you today. Abhishek, I know it's early minutes just now. The sad news is just broken. Are we expecting that the mortal remains of brave Group Captain Varun Singh will similarly be brought to Delhi for his final rites here?
Well, Shiv, it's still not clear whether the final rites will take place in Delhi or in his hometown in Uttar Pradesh. But we've just had a statement from the Defence Minister, Rajnath Singh, where he's expressing his tributes to Group Captain Varun Singh. We are awaiting, what exactly is the schedule for his last rites, and whether it will be done in Barar Square like the others were given a befitting farewell. But be rest assured, whether it's here or anywhere else, it will be done with full military honors, Shiv, like has been the case for all of those who were on board. And, Group Captain Varun Singh, as we've been discussing, was an extremely, extremely inspiring character in the Indian Air Force. And he lived a life which showcased his grit, his determination, his persona. He was awarded the Shaurya Chakra for his brave act of ejecting out of an LCA. Not only did he ensure that his life is saved, but he also made sure there was no damage to civilian lives around there. And that inspiring letter that he wrote to his school principal after getting the Shaurya Chakra, all of that shows what kind of a character he was. And really a very, very sad moment, because there was hope, even though, there was just a glimmer of hope, but there was hope that if Group Captain Varun Singh makes it, not only would he be the sole survivor on board that ill-fated helicopter, but he would also be helpful to the investigation that is being conducted into how that helicopter crashed.
Abhishek, thank you for getting us those details. We'll keep track of this situation. Group Captain Varun Singh's last rites, the details of that you'll hear, of course, first here on India Today. Karthik, my colleague, is also live with me from outside the command hospital in Bengaluru. Karthik, the Indian Air Force putting out the very, very sad news just a short while ago. What are we expecting to see at the hospital? Will the last rites, will there be some kind of a wreath-laying ceremony to bid farewell to Group Captain Varun Singh at the hospital or elsewhere in Bengaluru before his mortal remains are shifted out of the city and to Delhi or to Uttar Pradesh? What's going to happen next?
Shivarpur, just very recently we got the news from the Indian Air Force. We just tweeted about this heartbreaking news about Group Captain Varun Singh's passing away, the lone survivor in the Indian Air Force Coonoor helicopter crash. Now I'm just standing outside the command hospital, and we're yet to get any message from the Indian Air Force about what would, how will things proceed from here on. But we're waiting for much information. But this is definitely heartbreaking news that has come from Bengaluru today.
All right, so that is the tragic news of the sole survivor of the CDS